All right, it's time to break down the film one scene at a time. Act 1. Why don't we set some shit up?
Our love letter to Nicolas Cage begins with a clip from Con Air where, spoiler alert, if you haven't seen the movie like I haven't yet, Cameron Poe meets his daughter for the first time after being in prison for her whole life and gives her the stuffed rabbit he's been killing bad guys to protect through the whole movie. Tune in for more on that during our special Con Air episode.
Have you really never seen Con Air? Wow.
No. Like I said,
I knew there was
Nicolas
somebody
Cage
out
fan.
there who had never seen Con Air.
I've seen it like 3 times since I started this job.
We cut to a couple watching the movie, remarking on how Nicolas Cage is like poetry in motion, obviously characters of extreme sophistication and class. But they are rudely interrupted by some bad guys in ski masks who kidnap the girl. What was it? I was trying to think. I was like, was this scene in Mexico? But there was not the Mexican filter over it, so I don't think it was. And it turned out it wasn't.
No,
Yeah.
I mean,
Catalan.
I think it's supposed to be like Spain, isn't it?
Yeah.
I don't really understand where
Catalonia, I
was.
think, or whatever.
Yeah.
it was.
Oh yeah, that's right, Catalonia. Yeah.
It's the eastern side of Spain, which is the only part of Spain that I've been to. I've been to Barcelona, and I went up north
Barcelona.
into the Pyrenees, and there are Catalonia flags everywhere because they want to go independent from the rest of Spain. They want to be their own country.
Why? When do you want to be part of Spain?
We cut to Los Angeles, where the greatest actor to ever grace the silver screen screams along to Creedence Clearwater Revival. While driving to a lunch meeting with Joe director David Gordon Green. Nick, or should I say Nick, with a K, waxes poetic about the film and seems to already have the lead role in the film David is directing, but then messes it all up by giving a super cagey, unhinged line reading that even after David tells him an actor of his caliber doesn't need to audition since he's Nicolas Cage, but Nick seems to want the validation, so he does it anyway. He delivers the line, and I'm going to read it, but it's not going to be like he delivers it because I don't
Only he
remember
could
it.
deliver
But
it that way.
it was with a
Yeah.
Boston accent that was terrible and
I don't
really
think it was a
hammy.
Boston accent.
He said it was supposed to be one.
I know.
Yeah.
The line is, "It's a foregone conclusion, Jimmy. It takes 15 milliseconds for the human brain to send a message to the body. So by the time your bullets hit me, my cerebral cortex will have transmitted a signal to the 17 helping muscles that operate my trigger finger. And before your asshole has a chance to pucker up, your medulla oblongata will be splattered on the fucking wall behind you. And if that's the last thing I accomplish on this beautiful green earth, well then, ha! I say, ha! What a way to fucking go."
I kind of wonder if in that scene we were supposed to interpret that Nick changed the line that was originally in the script for the film that David Gordon Green is directing there, and he added a bunch of shit to it, like the medulla oblongata and all that stuff.
Yeah.
Wait, man.
I just wanted to put my own spin on it.
Right.
And then he was like, holy shit. Oh, wait, we get to it.
Yeah. Well, his delivery does have the opposite effect. Unfortunately, and clearly, David Gordon Green rethinks Nick for the part by saying,
Holy shit.
but not in a good way. Quick fact, the original script had a plot involving Nicolas Cage chasing down Quentin Tarantino to earn a role for his next movie, but was changed to another scene featuring a cameo appearance from director David Gordon Green.
Yeah, I think originally it was supposed to be Quentin Tarantino's birthday. So he was supposed to like crash Tarantino's birthday and, try and like really cagily get into Tarantino's next film. That was kind of the whole idea. And then, like I said, because of conflicts, Tarantino wasn't able to do it. I think Tarantino wanted to do it, but it was like he wasn't able to do it because of COVID stuff.
Yeah.
And I think he's in pre-production on other things. And yeah,
Should have had Paul Schrader. It's usually the stand-in for when directors can't cameo in things, even his own movies.
he's a great actor, so it would have been would have just put him off to the corner. Holy shit!
Nick drives down the road happy as hell with how the line reading went, sitting next to a somewhat creepy deepfake of his younger self. Young Nick, or Nicky, says he really needs this role because he needs to make more, quote, movie star choices rather than be in every other Paul Schrader film. We cut to Nick at the psychiatrist, and she's driving around L.A. talking to his younger self about how he's a vampire, obviously in desperate need of clinical help. He tells her he's tired of people telling him he's doing too many films and never felt as though he had a career, but rather he just likes to work constantly.
I love his delivery in that scene.
You're making too many movies, Nick. You're working too hard, Nick. Have the audience miss you more, Nick. I mean, hello, it's my job. I pay my bills. I feed my family. You're annoying. Gosh.
She asks if he's afraid he's lost some of his talent, and he says that the movie is the role of a lifetime. She then asks how his anxiety over his career affects his family and cuts to his daughter sitting in the room with him. His daughter, Addie, says all he talks about is his career and old German expressionist films such as The Cabinet of Dr. Caligari, and it's clear that she absolutely hated it. He drops Addie off at Nick's ex-wife Olivia's house, where Nick laments that his daughter doesn't share his interests and says she thought that Humphrey Bogart was a porn star. He reached a new level of meta, guys.
We know he loves Bogart, man.
Yeah, I wish he would have said it in the accent.
She thought I was resisting. Yeah, that's right, resisting. And my friend was just trying to save me.
Yeah, it does. Bogart impression.
Yeah, see, she thought I was a porn star, see?
Olivia tells him to make sure he comes to her birthday party while Nick takes a call from his agent who asks Nick how he met Addie's mother. Get it? I'm sure it's a legendary story.
Falls
his agent
flat
Fink
on itself in the very last season.
His agent Fink is played by Neil Patrick Harris. Then meets with Nick at a Turkish bathhouse or something where they're beaten with seaweed for a bit, and Fink drops the news that they've received another offer. Nick asks what it's about, and Fink says it's about $1 million, which feels like a real conversation Nick had with his actual agent several times throughout the 2010s.
It's another really Paul Schrader film, huh?
That is it? $1 million? All right. Can we get Willem Dafoe to show up? Because that'd be fun.
I'll give him $100,000.
Fink says it's a birthday party for a rich guy, and Nick is disgusted at the idea. I wonder how many offers he's actually got in real life of just showing up to parties and stuff. And
Probably a lot. Yeah.
Tell him to fuck off.
But, it's got to be tempting sometimes, especially if you're like, he was hugely in debt there for a while after all those divorces and stuff, and buying all those islands and castles and junk. Yeah. So I bet you this exact situation has happened to real Nicolas Cage before.
I think all of this stuff is very autobiographical.
Yeah.
So. Which may have been why he was reluctant to do it, because it's too uncomfortable to play this in a role. But turns out he was a good sport about it, so it's good. Fink says Nick has been living at the Sunset Tower in Hollywood for a year, owes them $600,000, and has substantial debts. So where does Nick end and Nicolas Cage begin?
Jesus. Like, how? This is like a real thing, too. Like, people can rack up hundreds of thousands of dollars at these high-end hotels.
But they're not going to throw Nicolas Cage out, I think. And they're he's good for it.
He tells his agent he's going to get this big role, and when he does, he's back. Not that he ever went anywhere. Which is like a weird motto in this movie.
Yeah.
Again,
I feel like,
biographical.
I think people thought that he went away, like he wasn't a big star. But as we've seen, like, he purposefully left behind the big blockbuster stuff to do these small roles, which is exactly what he kind of talks about in the movie of when Nikki confronts him at the bar, where he's like, you're a movie star. You can't be the gay uncle in a Duplass movie.
Yeah.
That was such a great line. It's interesting because I think a lot of mainstream people think he just disappeared, but then like film fans have followed his career throughout, and his independent films from Joe to what's that one, Mom and Dad to Pig and all, Mandy. Like, I mean, dude, there are people that speak very highly of his
I mean, that's
more
where he
independent
started,
films.
you know, was those indie films like Raising Arizona and Wild at Heart and all of those kinds of movies. He didn't become mainstream until he, you know, started doing like The Rock and Con Air and those types of movies. But before that, he was very into these art house type of movies.
Yeah. I think that gets lost on people, though, because of how popular Wild at Heart and Raising Arizona became. I mean, think about
became
feel
after
like
the
indie
fact,
art
but
after the
movies.
fact.
they were
But at the
definitely
time,
indie films
yeah.
at the time. You
Yeah,
know?
at the time they were. But yeah, you look at where those writers and directors have gone, and that just gets swept into their huge blockbuster.
All of
think
those films at the beginning with like Moonstruck and
Yeah.
Vampire's
Wild
Kiss,
at Heart,
especially
yeah.
Wild at Heart, yeah. Red Rock West, all of those movies were like very kind of like divisive and not films that a mainstream actor would do. And then, you know, he got to a point where he got, you know, he said Ghostwriter broke him and he didn't want to do blockbusters anymore. So he went and did indie films and like.
Yeah. And then to the general audience,
It
not
looked like
doing
he just
blockbusters
dropped
means you're
off
gone.
the face of the earth. Yeah. So
So,
get off his balls, man.
And also, there was a healthy dose of just doing a bunch of real shit movies because
He did a lot of movies in there,
and
yeah.
streaming and stuff. So, you know.
Some of those movies are absolute garbage. Dog eat dog.
So from his
we've
perspective,
seen him.
he didn't stop working, but from the general audience perspective, he disappeared, and when he did show up, it was for some crap.
Yeah.
You know, so.
I mean, that's basically what they say in the movie. You know, when he's talking, I like to work. What's wrong with that?
Yeah,
kind of,
and that is his mentality in real life too. Is he doesn't see it as a career; he just sees it as constant work. Like he's consistently working.
But he did say in an interview that, like, yeah, he was doing roles just to pay off debts at a certain point, but he also said he never phoned it in, and he finally is now out of debt. So
Yeah. Which I don't know. Has he watched his performance in Dog Eat Dog? At one point, it was just like I think it was genuinely just him
that was just a paycheck, man.
walking around.
I mean, yeah, and that could have also been Schrader telling him to act like that.
yeah,
Because
yeah.
it's completely
Be
different
more
in the other Schrader
natural.
movies. So
We're going to get into a lot of those movies over the course of this show, and I wonder how many times we're going to run into that where it's just like, God, he brought nothing to this. So, you know.
Jiu-Jitsu.
Jiu-Jitsu. He brought something to Jiu-Jitsu. I don't know if it was good, but he brought something. Stolen.
he shows up at his daughter's birthday party, but gets a call from Fink informing him that he's been passed over for the role thanks to his insane, unprompted line reading. This causes Nick to channel Red from Mandy and just pick a movie. It just channels the drunk from
Walter.
Walter
Grand
from
Isle.
Grand Isle, Red
He
from
just
Mandy,
pounds a
Nathan
bottle of Jack
from
Daniels.
Color Out of Space,
Drink.
Joe from Joe. Anyway,
Joe.
he chugs a half bottle of whiskey at his
Yeah.
daughter's 16-year-old birthday party. Just what every 16-year-old girl wants, their drunk dad to crash their birthday party with all their friends. So next
Doesn't
he
get
then-
more embarrassing than having your dad sing you a song in front of all your friends. Your 16th birthday.
especially if your dad's Nicolas Cage, and most of these kids probably have no idea who he is aside from doing
Nicolas
a bunch of
Cage.
shitty movies.
No, they've probably seen him in The Croods.
So he drunkenly ruins his daughter's birthday party by telling a heartfelt story about how when Addie was 9, they drove overnight to the Grand Canyon and they watched the sunrise while Addie rested her head on Nick's shoulder, and he calls it the happiest moment of his life. He says he composed a song in that moment to sing on her 16th birthday, which he then screams while stopping now and again to talk about how real talent isn't appreciated in Hollywood.
I'll support whatever you choose, only I wouldn't recommend a life in the arts. Especially with how real talent goes unappreciated in this shithole town. Sun rising, sun rising.
Oh, so cringy.
So his ex-wife drives him home and tells him he needs to get his shit together. He heads home to his room at the Sunset Tower, only to find he's been locked out, which prompts him to call Fink and agree to do the birthday party. And he lets him know after the party that he's retiring from acting forever. And another part that I think was very heartfelt is his opinions on acting and how he just felt he was honored to be a part of one of the greatest traditions in human history, you know, telling stories and myth making and all that. And based on what he said in interviews, that is how he genuinely feels, I think.
Yeah.
Even when he does things like Dark or Dying of the Light or the crappy ones, it's still,
I think
he
that's,
seems to be a fan of the art.
you know, my question is kind of like, where does this character end and where does actual Nick Cage begin?
Yeah.
Because you got to assume that the writers saw him say that in an interview and then they put that into the film. So it's like, you know,
I think that's where some of his
really coming from Nicolas Cage, or is this coming from Tom Gormican? And
Who got it
Kevin
from
Eckler.
Nicolas Cage. But maybe he wasn't being sincere when he said it in the original interview. Who knows?
No, I think he is. I think
he
this
is,
is this is how I think he really feels about film.
Yeah, and I think that's probably where some of the hesitation came from at first. He's worried that they were going to pick on him because I know he said in an interview that he's worried that it might be more of the SNL treatment where Andy Samberg sat next to him and just kind of shit on him right to his face. Yeah. And it wasn't very ironic.
Yeah.
I mean, it was kind of
this one.
disrespectful.
I think once he read the script, he probably felt like they actually understood him and were trying to respect him and paint him in a sympathetic light, positive light.
It makes me wonder if he felt that, you know, like maybe it was still kind of poking fun of him, even when he was making it. Because if you remember when he had that drunken thing where he was thrown out of the casino in Vegas, barefoot and like refusing to leave, that the next day were shots of him in the scene with Demi Moore at the end of the film, and her hugging him and feeling bad, you know, for him and like what he went through because he got arrested and stuff. Yeah, so I don't know. You know, I wonder what was going on with him psychologically while he was making this film. If he did feel like maybe this is the end, or maybe he was just getting into character. I don't know.
Like I said to a One Cage fan on our YouTube channel, who hasn't been thrown out of a club or bar in Vegas for being obnoxiously drunk?
It's true.
Maybe you try to fight a cutout Michael Phelps in a subway. I don't know. Maybe you try to fight a wizard in the food court there. These are just things I'm not saying that I ever did these things, but they might have happened, you know. Vegas is a magical place.
I mean, you know, if you're not thrown out of places in Vegas, you're kind of doing it wrong, right?
Yeah. What are you, sober?
What's the point of going there?
On a private jet, he sees a story about the girl we saw kidnapped at the beginning of the film before flipping channels to The Rock, which seems to make him lament for the good old days. He lands on Mallorca, Spain, where we see Tiffany Haddish, a.k.a. Vivian, in a tiny airport talking to a partner who spots Nick coming off the plane. Vivian says, "That motherfucker from Moonstruck?" And her partner, Martin, says, "No, Face Off." Martin says they should abort, but Vivian decides to use Nick as their ticket into busting a crime lord. She fake fangirls out about the Croods 2 while planting a GPS on him.
I think it's funny because we talked about this exact thing of like Moonstruck is kind of for the women and Face Off is for the guys. You know?
Yeah. It's funny how much we reference some of these things.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, everybody feels the same way.
Yeah. And I think when her fangirling on him is very, you know, it's happened to him 1,000 times.
Yeah.
Like, I loved you in Moonstruck. Oh, yeah. Moonstruck.
He's like, oh, okay.
Or whatever.
Did you know they took my hand?
My nephews loved you in
Croods,
Croods 2 or whatever. He was like, oh, yeah, I had fun in that. That was a fun one. Yeah.
That was a good one.
Say hi to
Emma
your
Stone
nephew.
was in that.
Yeah, that's what it was.
Yeah, Emma. Oh, yeah, I was in it with Emma Stone. Yeah, I did that
Like
with
he
Emma
just has
Stone.
these, like movie star small talk just has to be like, say you had fun working on something.
Yeah.
Mention how nice another co-star was. Move on.
Say hello to
Say
your
hi
nephew.
to whoever. Yeah, you're a
Say
fan
hi to
of.
your nephew
Whatever.
for me.
Yeah. I thought it was a very like genuine, like, oh, thank you.
Yeah, and it was at an airport. I'm sure that happens literally every time he goes to an airport
I'm
or anywhere
sure.
in public.
I'm sure, yeah.
I saw Danny Glover in an airport one time, and he did kind of the exact same thing. Like everybody just stopped and looked at him, and it was creepy. Like, you know, the flight attendant, like the people who were at the front desk, like stopped and they're like, "Do you guys know who that is?" We're like, "Yeah, it's
No.
Danny Glover." And
We
like,
don't.
Then he,
No, one of the most famous
somebody
people.
ran up to him and like tried to get a picture with him, and he was very like cordial and nice and
Yeah.
signed an autograph. But you could tell he just wanted to get home. He probably just came
I
off of a
imagine
really
how
long
horrible
flight.
it is at the airplane too. Like especially if you got a connecting flight, you're trying to get somewhere.
yeah.
And, it's
Yeah.
bad enough when you don't have people
yeah.
mobbing you.
Yeah,
But
people
like
just
when you
mobbing
do those smaller private jets, the airports are much smaller, so at least
Yeah,
you
true.
only have to deal with a couple people.
Yeah.
One Tiffany Haddish.
Tiffany Haddish.
Or the guy from Mad TV. That's why he was not funny in this movie.
I thought it was funny when he's like, "No, I haven't seen the Cruise 2. I'm a grown fucking man."
42 years old. Why would I watch Crudes too?
I did laugh at that because I'm like, now we got to watch Crudes too. So
Yeah,
I
we
know.
do.
I was thinking the
for
same
this
thing. I was
show.
laughing.
I didn't
Yeah,
even
I
know he
think-
was in it.
Next season will be the first time we do an animated film, but it's going to be our Christmas episode because we have that Christmas Carol movie that Nick Cage was in. He's barely in. He's like Marley, I believe.
Ah.
So
Oh man.
Nick arrives at a boat and is taken by the Mandalorian to Javi's while talking to Fink on the phone. Fink tells Nick that Javi, the rich guy he's there to see, owns olive groves, and we find out he wrote a screenplay for a movie he wants Nick to star in. At the dock, Nick tells Oberyn Martell that if Javi wants him to suck his dick or fuck his wife or watch him fuck his wife, that's no bueno. And of course, the Mandalorian reveals himself to be Javi. Quick
had
fact.
to throw an Oberyn Martell.
Yeah.
That's
That was the first time I saw him in anything. was Game of Thrones.
Maxwell Lord or whatever his name is, and was it Maxwell Lord in Wonder Woman 84?
I don't think anybody ever saw that movie. So.
Yeah, I don't think anybody
How are we
saw that
supposed
one.
Oh, it's
It's going to make a Last of Us joke, but it's not out
something
yet.
else.
to- Yeah.
Joel. Yeah,
Joel.
it's- Yeah,
I was hoping
Wonder
you'd make
Woman
a
84
crocodile
is
joke in there.
something else. You should watch it. Jesus Christ.
Oh, DC.
Tune into One Cage After Dark, where we watch Wonder Woman 84.
Quick fact, the sunglasses worn by Javi when he first meets Nicolas Cage on the dock are the same model of Ray-Ban Olympian 2 that Cage wore in Wild at Heart.
It's kind of cool
Yeah, something.
fun fact.
Yeah. Makes sense that Javi be wearing them. They're probably in the movie. They're probably the exact same sunglasses. He probably bought them from a prop auction or something.
Yeah. Yeah. I didn't even think about that. Yeah, that's funny.
Javi's operations manager Gabriela asks how meeting his hero went, and Javi says it was incredible. He's so cool, and he's just right. Javi is us in this movie, except we would have totally told him he needs to watch us watch him while we fuck each other. $1 million well spent.
What, him to crocodile in the corner while we...
Yeah, he's dressed up as a crocodile. You
Yeah,
gotta
we
watch
watching
it.
it.
You watching?
Got the costume from
Put this
Willy's
on.
Wonderland.
Yeah. He's like, wait, is that the crocodile? Is that Ally the alligator? No, it's a crocodile,
But we
bitch.
threw that thing away.
Thought everything for that movie was destroyed.
What's it so sticky?
I don't even remember doing that movie.
I was
It's
waiting
funny.
for something like that in his movie, in his memorabilia room, like just some reference to some really shitty movie, and be like, I don't even remember what the hell was this from.
Yeah.
There's a bunch of things in that movie or in that room that I feel like we're going to recognize later on.
Yeah, that's why I bought
Yeah.
this movie instead of renting it, because I'll just rewatch it once we're done with the show, and then I'll appreciate it more.
There's some stuff that I'm like, I know I should know this, but I'm not sure. I broke it down like when we get to the scene, I'll talk about it. But there's stuff that wasn't mentioned even in the IMDb like connections section that I recognized. So I'm sure like for years people are going to be pausing that and going like, oh, those are from this. And like there's
Yeah.
even like another side of it that I think we don't even see. So
Yeah.
I wonder if that was a longer scene and maybe there was more emphasis on that stuff because it's so quick like through that little part over to the wax dummy, and there's like
Yeah, it
stuff on
was-
the wall that isn't mentioned
there's-
as well.
Yeah, posters and whatnot on the wall and other stuff hung. Yeah.
and
I think
props.
we
different
get
props.
the point.
Yeah,
It would just be indulging people like us who like watching Nicolas Cage movies, but it would drag down the movie for everybody else.
Yeah.
Like,
Oh, look,
Give
I
it to
missed
me.
that. I missed it the first time. Oh yeah, that's gonna be people when we finish the show. That's gonna be our fucking shelf on the breakdown part. People are gonna be like, I can't even tell what the fuck's on there.
Nick gets drunk at the pool, again with no tattoos. I didn't even catch that they
Yeah.
would have covered them all up. But anyway,
just
at the
he
pool-
jumps into the pool and it doesn't come off. So I'm wondering, like, does that makeup like stay on, or maybe they had to CG it when he goes into the pool?
I think they might use like latex or something just to cover it. Something they can peel
waterproof,
off, but
yeah.
that looks natural.
It's impressive how well they can do that, because he's been in a lot of movies where he's had his tattoos covered up, and you can't tell.
I never even noticed.
Yeah.
Those Hollywood makeup artists or something
Yeah.
else. They had a lot of practice. Okay, anyway. Nick gets drunk at the pool while Javi awkwardly tries to engage with everyone's favorite actor, but is interrupted by his scummy-looking cousin Lucas. It's like a Hispanic Pete Davidson. Except somehow more gross looking and unappealing.
Oh man.
I would say Pete Davidson is more gross and unappealing, in my opinion.
Back to
I'd
the
rather hang out with
ladies.
Lucas than Pete Davidson any day.
Gabriella asked Nick what he's working on next, and he said he's no longer an actor and will instead live the life of a house cat because it's just a matter of time before the great power plant upstairs turns off the juice and we retreat back to the black pit of nothingness from whence we came.
It's an amazing line.
And the way he reads it too is so good.
Lucas bashes Nick for not being a star anymore, to which I'll just say, go watch Mandy. Did you see Pig, you piece of shit? Sorry. We have strong opinions about Nick's dark period.
It's not even dark. It wasn't,
No.
There's
except
a
for
lot
dark.
of great stuff.
Except for
dark.
Dark.
Dark. Real dark.
Nick then grabs a drink and chugs it as he sits at the bottom of the pool. It's just a great scene.
Yeah.
Dives into the pool with a full beer and then drinks it at the bottom of the pool.
Yeah.
Before Javi jumps in to save him, a scene lovingly lifted directly from Nick's Oscar-winning performance in Leaving Las Vegas.
It was kind
Next
of
day-
the rock bottom in the film. Was when he like grab. I think it's a bottle of whiskey, and he's
Yeah, I
drinking
think
the whiskey
yeah.
as he falls to the bottom of the pool.
Yeah,
and
he puts his thumb
Elizabeth's
over it,
shoe
jumps in.
jumps in and saves him.
It's a nice homage.
Yeah.
The next day, Gabriella forcefully wakes Nick up from his hangover and tells him Javi wants to show him some beautiful cliffs, and for him to tell Javi he loves the cliffs, even if he hates them. She's a good manager, I guess.
Yeah.
Javi drives Nick as he tries not to hurl when suddenly Javi spots someone following them and says they must go now. He runs off into the Spanish woods as Nick chases after him in a bathrobe. At the edge of the cliff, Javi tries to get Nick to act out a scene with him, but Nick isn't having it. He yells at him to stop, and Javi tells him that he can't stop acting because whether he likes it or not, he has a gift that brings light and joy to an increasingly dark and broken world, which is exactly how we here at One Cage feel about Nicolas Cage. So that was a very well written line, I think.
Yeah.
It hit me in the feels.
Yeah. Nick finally laments and joins Javi in this imagined scene, and they jump off a cliff together, which turns out to be way higher than you'd expect.
Like
Next.
he didn't even know that it was a cliff. Like, what did you expect it to be?
I know.
The ocean was right there.
I love as they're jumping off. They're just like, oh shit.
Next, we see them sitting on the beach where they share a joint while Nick laments over his strained relationship with his daughter and his ex-wife, who he says was a makeup artist on Captain Corelli's Mandolin. Underrated film. Javi says he's in love with a woman, obviously Gabriella, but sometimes circumstances get in the way of love. He changes the subject and asks Nick what his favorite movie is, and Nick goes on a long rant about the history of cinema, and Javi tells him Face Off is his favorite, but his second favorite is The Cabinet of Dr. Caligari, and Nick instantly falls in love with him.
These three films could not be any different from
I love it. They're just so fucking different.
I love
By
that
the
he's
way,
like,
I wonder-
Face Off, yeah, Woo's a maestro. Like,
Yeah, who's a maestro? Yeah.
I wonder if it was an homage to Face Off that the stunt double that jumped off the cliff looked absolutely nothing like Nick Cage.
I didn't even notice it.
I don't think it was. I think that was just how Hollywood works.
I hope that's what it was, though. That's great.
He was like, yeah.
The one who was playing Javi looked exactly like Pedro Pascal from behind, but the one that played Nick Cage
Looked nothing like it.
nothing like him.
I do hope so.
Next, they drink wine, and Javi says his third favorite film is Paddington 2, to which Nick says,
Bullshit, Mom.
call back to Matchstick Men.
Bullshit, man.
I missed that the first time around. I think because I was laughing.
Yeah.
They watch it, Paddington 2, and they cry through the whole thing, then play Truth or Dare in a pool. About to get all sorts of sexy. Javi asks Nick if he hated his screenplay, and Nick says Fink never even sent him a copy of it. Nick says they should head into town and have a drink while he reads the script, but Javi says he's too nervous to watch him read it. So Nick goes into town alone after saying he's having the most fun he's had in a long, long time.
I feel like they painted this friendship really well.
Yeah.
And there's not like a ton of scenes between them. I feel like sometimes films do this really well with just very short scenes, and then other films you could actually do the whole movie and still not feel like the two characters are connected.
Yeah.
I don't know exactly what that writing, what exactly it is that makes you feel these characters actually have a genuine connection versus not. But in this one, it really felt like they actually were buddies, and Nick was actually having a really great time with Javi in like 2 minutes worth of scenes.
I think they did it because they established Nick's problems in the earlier in the movie, and then they show like how this helps. I don't know. This is like a retreat for him. And he's enjoying himself, and he finds a kindred spirit because that's the other part.
Exactly.
The problem is he wants to share what he loves with people, and people think that's overbearing, and they don't like his Germanistic expression. They don't like his love of German expression films or whatever. But he finally finds somebody who does, happens to be a super fan of his, but also he's got a kindred spirit. And of course, Javi likes him because he's Nicolas Cage. But then we find out later Javi's got his own shit going on. So just needs a friend too.
Yeah, and their chemistry together is just so good. That really helps too. Is they just meshed really well. And sometimes you don't get that with buddy comedies.
Yeah.
Nick Cage said that Pedro Pascal was one of the weirdest people he's ever met. That his sense of humor was so like strange.
Coming from Nick Cage, that's weird.
Yeah.
He's like, and that's why I liked him even more.
Yeah. As we've seen, like characters, like real life characters, are the people that Nick Cage gravitates towards the most.
You guys should, if you haven't already, you should go watch. I think it's GQ does these lie detector interviews, and they have Pedro on there. He is an eccentric dude, and you just can't help but fall in love with him because it's just like that would. I feel like that would be us if we were in that situation where we're just making fun of everything and just kind of, not taking it super serious. But yeah, if you guys haven't seen it, I definitely recommend watching it. It's pretty funny. It's pretty good.
I did happen to see him up on stage at Celebration.
You son of a bitch.
I was like the back of a crowd of people, but I was walking by and I heard him talking. And I was like, oh, that's Pedro Pascal. So I would have watched him talk for a bit.
I would have yelled out, Hobby.
I feel like Pedro Pascal is he's already a movie star, but I feel like he's at the cusp of becoming a really big movie star.
Feels like he gets that too. Like he
know it's
understands that.
Probably cliche, but I really feel like he would nail Zorro if he played Zorro, and maybe Marvel's take on Zorro, like almost like an MCU Zorro, would be really great to see him in that role.
I agree. I think he would do a fantastic job. He's just he's just about to hit the peak, I think, of his fame. I think with everything that he's been doing between the Star Wars stuff, with Last of Us, now some of the films that he's been in, I think I think
maybe he'll follow a Nicolas Cage arc
where he peaks,
shoot up and then peak, and then and then get into a bunch of debt and then a bunch of indie stuff, get burned out.
I think no offense to our hero, but I think he's a little more together when it comes to financial stuff.
He's a little more conservative with his finances.
He just seems like a very mellow dude. A little more grounded. No offense, Nick, but sometimes you're out there.
Yeah, I don't. I think Nick Cage grew up in fame. With Francis Ford Coppola. August Coppola was famous as well. So I think he was eccentric from the get-go, whereas Pedro was not born into fame, obviously, and
still eccentric though.
Very eccentric, but I think that just comes with being an actor and being in the arts in general.
Yeah, and I think like coming from his background where his parents immigrated to the States and like having those roots, I think that kind of grounds you a little bit more and gives you a different perception of fame than somebody that grew up in a famous family. I mean, you see it all the time. These kids that have famous parents, they aren't always as grounded as people who came from nothing and had to work their way up.
Yeah.
At a bar in town, Nikki, Nick's younger self, shows back up and screams at Nick for saying Javi inspired him to consider doing small roles in indie films rather than remain the leading man. Nick says he's Nick fucking whoa, Cage, and that he's a movie star. And then he French kisses himself and says, Nick Cage smooches good. You tell him, Nick Cage smooches good.
I think I was the only person laughing at that scene, and I was laughing so hard I was crying.
So great. Yeah.
That was Nick Cage's idea. He actually came to them with that idea and said, this is a movie about me, and I'm in a scene with myself. I think I should French kiss myself. That's what this movie feels like.
On the way out of the bar, he's thrown into a van where he finds Martin and Vivian in the back, who tell him Javi is the head of an international arms cartel and they want him to spy on him for them. He says there's no way Javi's a murderer since, as a thespian, he can read people, and his nouveau shamanistic acting ability trumps 5 years of intelligence gathered by the CIA.
Which turns out to be true, by the way.
Yeah.
Vivian shows him a picture of the girl from the beginning of the film and explains that she's the daughter of the president of Catalonia, and she must be in Javi's compound somewhere. So they enlist Nick to help them tap into Javi's security cameras. Was it us who talked about the nouveau shamanistic thing, like that? Cage.
Yeah,
he actually describes his acting as.
Yes.
So I was like, that sounds familiar. That's such a specific thing. I don't know where I would have heard it otherwise, other than this show.
That's why.
I think it was while he was doing
hard.
press for this movie. It was when he mentioned it. So.
He's also talked about it, like in reference to Vampire's Kiss and things like that, where he's like he drew a lot from those experience or those films.
Nouveau, I get, but I don't really get the shamanistic.
Unless he's supposed to
shamans.
Yeah, like he's
I don't know
tapping into otherworldly forces to play these characters.
Could be, yeah. Who knows?
Act 2. It's about time we had some conflict, wouldn't you say?
At Javi's birthday party, we see a conflicted Nick Cage listening to Vivian explain to him through an earpiece that they're about to kill the power, and he'll have just 4 minutes to sneak into the security room and tap into the cameras before they reboot. The power goes out, and Javi is immediately surrounded by bodyguards, which, I guess, we'll get to it. He's sort of like the figurehead, but not really the power behind everything. So I guess it makes sense for the bodyguards to surround him.
Yeah, because they're in public, and he's still useful.
While Nick sneaks through the house to the room where they keep the security camera servers in, I guess is what that is, like a server room. As soon as Martin and Vivian see the camera feed, thanks to a USB or whatever trickery Nick Cage does there.
Mm-hmm. They went to the same school that Riley did. CIA magic. Tapping into
just super easy, man.
They should have just cut into some sewer pipes.
Cables, yeah.
Just clip a couple things on there and good to go.
We went to, what's that, Radio Shack and got some equipment, Nick. Just use this.
Yeah. Now it's Amazon, Radio Shack's just gone. They just ordered some parts from Amazon, got them sent to the hotel. Anyways, they spot a security guard heading straight for the server room, and they tell Nick to take out an incapacitating agent that he puts on his hand to knock the guy out. It's like a little thing that you wipe onto skin, and it causes you to pass out. But, of course, he wipes it on his forehead immediately. which will cause him, they tell him that it'll cause him to pass out in 30 seconds if he doesn't get the antidote, which that scene felt like it was like 5 minutes long.
Yeah, so long.
Where he got to the antidote. It turns out when he left the server room, when he walked out to see where the guard was, he accidentally locked the door. So he's just absolutely terrible at this right off the bat. And the antidote is inside, so he had to climb out the window while stumbling like mad to get back into the room. He eventually manages to get into the room, but passes out before he can apply the antidote. But Vivian yells, "Action!" which wakes him up immediately, and he gives himself the shot. I thought it was great.
Fucking actors, man.
Yeah. I love Martin's reaction to all that. Like, well, I had fun being in the CIA. We just killed Nicolas Cage. In the bathroom, he says he's still not convinced that Javi is the guy that they say he is, but revels in the idea of being a spy. He's pretty good at this espionage stuff. Vivian says good because they have another mission for him, and he freaks out saying, "Fuck that. It was terrifying."
It's kind of terrifying.
They tell him to make an excuse to stay an extra few days so he can search for Maria on the compound somewhere, the president's daughter. After Javi recounts a story about how the movie Guarding Tess, of all movies, brought he and his estranged father back together, Nick lets Javi know that he read his screenplay and he wants to do a movie with him. Not the movie he wrote, which I thought was a really funny detail. It's like, no, not that.
So you're going to act in it? No, I'm not.
No. One of the best things I've ever read. Anyways, Javi's overjoyed that he gets to work with his hero, and they decide they're going to write this movie that we're currently watching. Sort of. It gets all sorts of meta at this point.
Excuse me. Yep.
Like every scene that they describe is basically the scene we're currently watching or about to watch for the whole rest of the movie. The next day, Vivian calls Nick and tells them they found a probable location for Maria on the compound by looking at all the security cameras, thanks to him hacking into it with a USB or whatever. And they ask him to go investigate it. He heads to check out this glass door building, but Javi stops him and says if they're going to write a work of art together, they need to open their minds. So he suggests that they drop some LSD. Which, this might be the best scene in the whole movie.
Yeah, I love this sequence.
Nick says, "Fuck it, why not?" And the two of them drive into town zonked out of their minds. I love Javi, like the way he looks at Nick Cage. I feel is the way that we would look at Nick Cage. Just just so in love with him, so happy that he's there with Nick Cage, like driving around in his home, you know. This is like the greatest moment of Javi's life.
Yeah.
Javi says their movie should be character driven, but should have a big drug scene in the middle. It's like we said.
Maybe it's acid speaking, but I think we should have a drug scene.
Well, it's like he's watched other movies than Nicolas Cage has been.
Yeah.
Lieutenant.
like Mandy.
Yeah, Mandy.
They stop in town where they basically describe the movie we're currently watching, a plot-driven comedy with a paranoid thriller angle. And then Nick says two goofy-looking guys eating ice cream have been watching them the whole time. And then it's funny because it's like goes from them talking about the movie and then Javi actually being like, wait, are they actually watching this? Because he knows that there's actually, you know, bad guys potentially after them. And then Nick says Javi should do a fake laugh when he looks over at them. And he looks directly at them while doing a crazed laugh for way too long. Which makes them very confused. I love that. That might be my favorite moment of the whole movie is his laugh at these guys.
He just turns over and just laughs at him like a maniac. It's like he's trying to smile through a
looks
frown.
directly at them and starts laughing like while he's looking at them. Yeah, it's like the smiling through the pain laugh from
through the pain
Joe. Yeah.
From Joe. That's what it reminded me of.
Nick and Javi decide they're in trouble, so they run for it, but have to scale a wall that's in their path. Javi tells Nick to use him as a human stool. And Nick gets to the top of the wall. He tries to pull Javi up, but he can't lift him because he has a huge head.
It's so big. It's so big.
You're heavier than you look. Javi tells him to leave him behind, and Nick cries like a baby. It's like the overacting in this scene, you can credit to the drugs, but at the same time, it's just so meta, the whole thing.
Yeah.
They say their goodbyes, and Nick jumps off the wall, but turns out they could have just walked around the wall. So Javi meets him on the other side. They give each other a big warm embrace. Then they spot two dudes who look nothing like the two dudes they just ran from, but they think that they're the same guys, so they run for it again, and Javi gets hit by a car. It's just amazing.
Oh, man.
Javi says he can't drive since he's injured, and Nick says that he can't drive because he doesn't want to drive on acid, but Javi convinces Nick to drive since he heard that Nick did all of his own driving stunts in Gone in 60 Seconds, which we talked about in our Gone in 60 Seconds episode. Just, it's like they wrote this movie specifically for us.
Yeah.
I was going to say, it feels like they watched our podcast.
Yeah. Nick then ramps Javi's car into every parked vehicle and bike in town while escaping. So it's like, did he really do his own stunts there? I don't know.
Well, he probably wasn't on acid at the time.
Yeah, that's right. While escaping from the guys that they imagined were chasing them. Javi then has an epiphany that the film should be about them and their relationship. And Nick is all for it. So it's exactly the movie we're watching. He drives them back to the compound, but leaves Javi passed out in the car to go check on the building that Vivian said was probably where Javi was hiding Maria. Nick knocks on the door a few times. If she's being held captive, nobody would answer the door. But it's fine. He's still on drugs.
Yeah.
But Javi shows up behind him and then menacingly says,
"You want me to let you in there, huh?"
And then, it's like, no matter what the consequences are, this is going to change, how you feel about me, all that kind of stuff. Really setting up that Javi is actually, the person that the CIA says he is. But it turns out to be something completely different. Nick says he wants to know what's inside, regardless of the consequences of what he might see. So Javi opens the door, and rather than finding a dungeon, he finds Javi's Nicolas Cage themed man room or fat palace, whatever.
I can see a lot of jergets and tissues in there, so I think you're onto something.
Whoa, what did I slip in? Looks like a snail was in here. Javi has a huge selection of movie posters, paintings, scripts, props, magazines, film slates. It's insane. It's like my bedroom level of insane. Quick fact. Okay, so this is a incomplete list of what I could see myself, and also some Google searches and watching a couple of breakdowns of this scene from other people who would say they found every single thing. But I will say that there is stuff in here that I don't recognize that I'm sure we're going to be like, oh, that's what that was once we get to the movie. Believe it or not, we have not seen every Nicolas Cage movie.
Yet.
Yeah, we're getting there. That's why we're doing this. Is there's tons of Nicolas Cage films that I have not seen. So when we find them, we'll talk about them, I'm sure, at some point. But I'll go through the list here. So there's a slate from Valley Girl. There's a slate from Raising Arizona, as well as a portrait of H.I. McDonough, and a prop of the diapers, the Huggies that were in that. It's just I think just about every prop was recreated from the originals, so they didn't actually get a hold of the original props, but a lot of them were recreated. So the Huggies are just Huggies from that time period, from 87. The hand from Moonstruck is in there. The lottery ticket from It Could Happen to You, which is kind of a forgotten Nick Cage movie that's actually great, where they win the lotto, but it was like him and a waitress decide to go in on it, and then they end up falling in love. It's a great movie. Spoilers for It Could Happen to You. A copy of the screenplay from Leaving Las Vegas, as well as just like a jug of alcohol, which I think was the thing that he was drinking when he went into the pool in Leaving Las Vegas. There's a clapperboard from The Rock, as well as the nerve gas balls from from the end of The Rock. A prop of the burnt bunny from Con Air, which spoilers for Nigel is the kind of the driving force is he's being released from prison, but these other convicts take over the plane and he tries to stop them because he wants to get out of prison. But the whole time he's trying to bring that stuffed bunny because he's supposed to meet his daughter for the first time. A prop of the torch from National Treasure, the one that he's holding when he lights the trough at the end, as well as a copy of the screenplay and a poster on the wall. There's a copy of the screenplay from Lord of War, the chainsaw and axe from Mandy, and the crown from Peggy Sue Got Married, which I actually didn't see mentioned anywhere, but that's the crown when they're crowned prom king and queen. It's on the wall, like in a case, but nobody mentioned that one online. So I'm sure that there's a lot of stuff that is in that room that we'll figure out when we get there. And then there's a slate from Face Off, and the piece de resistance is the wax life-size figure of Castor Troy holding the gold guns from Face Off. Nick says that the wax dummy is grotesque and then offers him $20,000 for it. I think goes back to his, like, he's horribly in debt, and that's why he's there in the first place. But then he's about to offer $20,000 for this dummy.
Stupid wax figure.
Yeah.
After Hobby says
like
he paid $6,000 for it.
Yeah.
He's like, I'll give you $20,000 for it.
Is that supposed to be me?
It's grotesque. I'll give you $20,000 for it.
You know, those are real guns, custom made for the film.
Yeah, just drop there just in so that we would know that those guns will actually fire later on. Makes me wonder if they actually were real guns in Face Off.
Yeah, I don't know. I took that at face value as like that's a real fact, but
yeah, makes sense.
It is now.
I mean,
he said it.
Given recent events, we know that they use real weapons in some movies.
Yeah. True. Nick meets with Vivian where he tells her the girl wasn't in the vault, but he and Kavi's screenplay is coming along nicely, which I'm sure is exactly what she wanted to hear. She's like, after arguing with him for a while about him, not taking this seriously, she should suggest that he and Javi add a plot point to their movie where someone gets kidnapped so that Javi can theoretically tell him where he would hide somebody if he actually had kidnapped somebody. He says he can't do that because it's currently a buddy movie starring two Christ-like figures, and Javi will know something's up since he's a stickler for tone. As we said, the meta just keeps getting deeper and deeper throughout, to the point where the movie actually turns into a real movie at a premiere. Like, yeah. It reminds me of Adaptation. Yeah. Because that's what happens in Adaptation as well. And there's also the two characters interacting with each other. Like Charlie Kaufman just writes himself into the movie. And at a certain point, you're like, is this really still a movie? What the hell is going on? Anyways, we cut to Nick and Javi shooting clay pigeons off of Javi's balcony since we needed a trailer moment, like Vivian said in the previous scene, which is in the trailer. If you watch the trailer, there's...
I like that they're... Well, now you're discussing marketing. That's a marketing thing that they started talking about. A target audience and stuff. How are you going to pull in the audience?
Javi disagrees with adding a kidnapping to the film, and again has a menacing moment where he seems to figure out Nick is spying on him. He says Nick is lying to him and like really like screams at him like, "You're lying to me, Nick." And he knows why he keeps talking about a kidnapped girl, because he feels guilty about his relationship with Addie. The next day he gets a call from Vivian saying they've been made, and if they know about the CIA following them, then they've most likely figured out that Nick is a spy. He gets ready to leave, but Javi is there waiting for him, and he tells him he needs to come with him. And on cue, we introduce the kidnapping plot to our film. I don't know. I kind of love all of this like meta.
Me too.
We just introduced the kidnapping plot in the previous scene. Javi leads Nick to a room where Olivia and Addie are waiting for him, and I love that. Like he's convinced that Javi knows that he's a spy, but then it turns out he doesn't. He just wants Nick to get through his creative block. Javi says Nick left him no choice but to bring his family into this since he's going to die creatively. Javi says he's grown to care deeply about Nick, which I love. Is like, no, he's not dying. Look at him. He's a specimen. He'll probably outlive us all. Which, you know, for a 57-year-old man, he looks pretty great.
He looked good in this film. Yeah, he looked good.
He's in great shape. I mean, his hair is obviously fake, and hey, his beard is obviously colored. But stop,
stop these.
We all have gray hair already. Just no way Nicolas Cage doesn't look exactly like Evan Lake in real life.
Yeah, I'm sure he's completely gray. He says that they can't keep working on the film until he resolves his issues with his ex-wife and daughter, which understandably pisses his ex-wife and daughter off because they're sick to death of everything being about his career. Like literally everything has to be about his career. He asks Javi if his family can go after lunch, and Javi gives him a confused look because he's like, what do you mean? Of course they can. Which is pretty, you know, in hindsight, after finishing the movie, it's pretty fucked up that Javi brought them into this situation, knowing that he is connected to this drug or arms dealer and all that stuff. At lunch, Nick apologizes for being so focused on his work, but they laugh in his face and call him pathetic. Addie, in a very heartfelt moment, tells him everything has been about him and he can't stand not being the center of attention. And even though he's trying, it's not good enough, nor what she needs from her dad, which, you know, she just needs him to be there. And I think that's what's really missing from their relationship is he's just not present in her life, you know. Javi says they have a lot more work to do than he realized, and then leaves to meet with his cousin, who calls him Javi Ford Coppola. It's funny. Like I said, the meta just... Yeah,
that was a good line.
Lucas tells him he's been in contact with a guy named Sergio Baldassari, who is the head of a crime family but hasn't been seen in 15 years, which is very convenient for our film. He says they want to join forces once the president is either. I wasn't really sure with this because I thought they didn't want the president to be reelected. But then he says once the president is reelected.
Yeah, I don't know. I couldn't follow along with what was going on.
It's like Delgado was the president, and I thought they didn't
they kidnapped
want him
his
to
daughter
be
to get him to back out.
Yeah, to drop out of the race. I don't know. Javi figures out that his cousin is the one who kidnapped the president's daughter in that scene. Nick calls Vivian and says his family has been kidnapped by Javi and his gang, so she tells him to find a gun and get Javi alone. He tells Olivia what's going on and tells her he'll be back in an hour after he takes care of something. Like George and Lenny. Lucas tells Javi Nicolas Cage is spying on him, which he laughs off completely. They both do. And then he plays him a recording of him talking to Vivian from the birthday party, which is like, how the hell did they get a hold of that?
Right.
About him, you know, thinking he's great at espionage and all that stuff.
Especially because he was talking to Vivian through an earpiece. It wasn't like it was on
out in the
bathroom. So how did they? I mean, I get
maybe
they may have wiretapped the bathroom, but I don't know how he would have picked up.
I guess Javi has
talking through the
Yeah. How do you get at the other side of the conversation? Convenient film things. Lucas then tells Javi that either Javi kills Nick or Lucas will kill Javi. Essentially, yeah. Either you kill him or I will kill you. I don't know how to write that. Yeah. And kill Nick and his family.
I'm going to watch you, watch him, watch me kill you.
Wee, what a predicament.
And then John Travolta appears.
Oh, that would have been amazing.
They
Like,
kidnapped John Travolta.
would have been amazing if when they
Face-Off
cut
too.
to the film, it's like John Travolta instead of
As
Nick
Nick
John
Cage.
Travolta playing Nick. That would have been so good.
Fucking hilarious.
Anyways, Nick and Javi meet up outside, and Javi apologizes for bringing his family to Spain. He says maybe a kidnapping could work for their film. It will start as a beautiful character-driven film, but slowly change into a thrilling Hollywood blockbuster. Javi asks him if he'd like to drive out to the cliffs so they can think through the third act, and Nick agrees. And on cue,
Act 3. It's about time to wrap this thing up.
Nick and Javi arrive at the cliffs and both seem pretty bummed to have to kill each other. Nick asks if Javi got new shoes and that they look incredible on him. They decide to swap shoes since both agree their shoes look great on the other guy.
I love that whole sequence.
They're all showing. Like,
I really like those shoes.
I like those shoes. They look good on you. I don't think I can pull them up. You're totally pulling them up. Nick says he's really glad he got to meet him, and Javi says likewise. Both say
They're
the
lucky they're the
relationship.
same shoe size.
Yeah,
How lucky.
convenient. How convenient, dude.
Well, that
Kind
might
of.
be why his shoes are slipping off of him later
Yeah, I
on.
was gonna say yeah.
But then wouldn't Javi's
Right.
feet be smaller since
Yeah,
he's
so they
like
wouldn't
way
fit at
shorter?
all. Yeah.
True.
Yeah.
Who knows? Maybe he's got clown feet.
Maybe he's got a huge, never mind.
Sword. Saber.
Dark Saber.
Dark Saber. both say their relationship is easy at the same time and have a good chuckle. Then they kiss like Nikki and Nick earlier. No, wait. They actually just head into the woods to try and kill each other instead.
It felt like that was about to happen. It's
I know. Yeah. You tell him nobody smooches as good as Nick Cage. Javi's just like,
Javi, smooch is good.
I can't kill you, Javi. I just kissed you. Javi pulls the gun his cousin gave him to kill Nick, and, as you probably guessed, Nick pulls out the golden guns from Face Off. Javi asks why he'd want to kill him, and Nick says because he's the head of a criminal organization, to which Javi says it's his cousin who is the crime lord. Then he reveals that when his father died, Lucas forced Javi to act as the figurehead while he ran the criminal element of the organization.
So his dad was the arms
dad was
dealer
The
before.
original. Yeah.
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 His dad was
And
the
that's
head of
probably why they didn't get along.
yeah.
But guarding
Yeah.
Tess brought them back together.
Right. His father was Tess.
Guarding
Obvious-
Tess is such a goofy movie. It's like it's like a Driving Miss Daisy, but with the president's wife or whatever.
When they showed that clip of it, of Nick watching it, I was like, wait, is this a real movie? Because it looked fake as fuck. It looked like they deep faked him into it. So I was like, wait, is this a real movie?
It definitely is a real movie. I mean, it's an okay movie. I don't know. It was kind of like in that craze of The Bodyguard and all that
Yeah.
stuff. Like that's when they made that. So
It was the Armageddon to the Deep Impact.
it was kind of like a fish out of water, funny movie, but then it turns into an action. It's almost kind of similar to this
Similar
movie,
to this
actually.
Yeah, maybe that's why they used it.
That's probably why they
As a
referenced it, yeah.
Yeah.
Javi says he loves Gabriella, but can't be with her because Lucas would use her against him. Javi says, I don't want to kill you. And Nick says, you're the last person I want to kill. So Javi says, I love you. And Nick says, I love you. And I cried like a baby in the theater. And I cried like a baby in the theater packed full of a bunch of adults.
Like you were watching Paddington 2.
Like I was watching Paddington 2.
I've heard that many times about those
I
Paddington
have
movies that
heard
they're
that
both
they are great. Paddington
really
2 is one
great.
of the highest rated movies of all time, apparently.
Yeah.
People are stoked that they're doing a third film. Like, I'm not shitting you. I've seen a bunch of positive press online about it, so we'll have to watch that one.
Maybe we'll all watch it together. So I'll watch Paddington together and cry.
Yeah.
And cry.
And then we'll kiss. Nigel Smooch is good.
Oh man! All right, so suddenly Lucas's men start shooting at them because I guess he realized Javi wouldn't actually kill the greatest actor on Earth. So they run to the cliffs, but Nick is slowed down by the shoes he just got from Javi since they don't offer great ankle support.
Penny loafers, essentially.
Penny loafers. Yeah.
Yeah. They argue about who's going to run across an open field to get the truck they arrived in, and Javi says he saw how fast Nick was in National Treasure, to which Nick says that was a stuntman, and Javi says not according to the making of featurette. Which, touche, I would use that too.
Yeah. I watched that
anyways.
featurette, and I remember that.
He's actually the one who read it.
Yeah, it was Nick Cage. He
That's
pretty
so
much
funny.
did as many of his own stunts as he
Did
could.
he jump off the aircraft carrier too? Or
No.
was that the stunt?
I don't think the
That
studio
was a
would let
stuntman.
him do that. Yeah. It might have been a dummy.
I think it was a real person, but
Yeah,
it was like
I
a trained
imagined
diver.
Yeah. Anyways, ultimately they end up just going together anyways. So
Are
all
you,
that added
you really
was
going to
awesome.
go? Oh, I'm going with you.
Yeah, he's like,
I like
going
that
with
part.
you. I'm going with you.
Pedro
They take
Pascal
off-
really like shows off comedy chops, which I don't feel like
dude,
he had been able to do at any point up to this point. Nick Cage
Wonder
rarely
Woman
gets to
84.
use his really.
He's pretty laughable in that.
Because his performance or because the movie's awful.
Yeah. In all seriousness, though, Pedro Pascal is pretty good in Wonder Woman 84. Like,
Really?
he's just chewing scenery and hamming it up. He's pretty great.
I'll watch it just for him.
That's pretty much the only reason that we enjoyed part of it. Was just his parts.
Maybe we'll just watch a compilation.
It's
of his
honestly, it's worth watching because of how fucking baffling the movie is. Honest, like really, like
Yeah.
every single thing in the movie is like the worst thing you can think of, worst decision you can make in a movie. It's crazy.
I heard that before it came out that DC like internal people were like, I don't know what the hell is going on with this DC universe. Like even Wonder Woman, which was the only movie at that time that people thought was
They had any kind of
actually
critical
good.
praise. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
The sequel, they were like, it's a hot mess long before that movie came out. I heard they had to go back and recut it a couple times too. So I don't know what they're doing over there. They have all the best characters, but they fuck it up every time they go out.
Oh, the
And even
Batman was
behind the
Marvel had
scenes.
nothing, and they managed
Yeah.
to make the best freaking movies you could make out of
They
know.
built
comic book
it
movies.
in a cave with a box of scraps.
You know why they were able to do that? Because they have values.
Because they listened to the people
It was
who
also
wrote the
do or
comic
die.
books.
Yeah, it was also do
Yeah.
or die with Iron Man. They actually had
Yeah.
the rights to Iron Man and Captain America and shit on the line. Like if those movies bombed,
Yeah.
whatever investment firms that they had begged for money would own those characters as collateral.
Yep.
Even in the comics, like they would lose the rights to make those characters anymore. It would go to some other random ass thing. Like
Yeah.
It's crazy.
It was do or die, and I don't know how the hell WB fucks it up with some of the most popular characters in Western history. But
I mean, it goes way back to Superman, where they're like, let's just separate the movies and the comics completely and not put them together. And we want people who don't read comic books to make comic book movies. And
which
like,
makes sense in the. Are you talking about the '70s Superman?
Yeah.
Or, yeah, I mean that makes sense.
going
back
back
then.
to that, yeah, and that's
Yeah.
been the motto though, going forward all the way through.
Yeah. I think I'm hoping Matt Reeves becomes the Kevin Feige of DC and he can rein that shit in because he seems to be able to tell us.
I don't
a
know, man. I
good
didn't like
story.
that
I don't know.
Batman movie very much either.
Really? Oh man, I
Nah.
loved it. I thought it was good.
I haven't finished it. I watched half of it.
I like the
I mean, it's all
detective
right.
aspect. The third act,
But
like the
like-
last part of the third act, I could have done without.
It's like
But-
5 hours long, and it's just like,
Yeah.
God, get on with it. Tell a story.
I-
Tell one story before you set up TV shows and other series. And
Well, they did.
You know.
They backed off all that other stuff.
I don't know who would want the job, to be honest, of like Kevin Feige of that with all the shit they
Yeah.
got going on. Like imagine having to deal with what's going on with Ezra Miller right now. Like
Oh,
you're still a
dude.
year out from releasing that film, and
Well, that movie's done.
this guy's going to be fucking in prison or dead by the time the movie comes out. And they, it's like
No, that movie's not coming out. They're gonna shit can that movie. There's
yeah,
no
they
way
already
they're gonna go back.
canceled it. Yeah,
I've heard one of the theories is like just recut it and make it Batman Flashpoint or whatever, and have
Yeah.
Michael Keaton do more stuff and actually make it more of a Michael Keaton centric thing, because that's what everybody wants anyway. It's just
Yeah, but he doesn't want that. He's like, fuck.
I'm sure he'll take it.
I think they
got
got
5 minutes in this fucking film.
I think they
Now
got
you
to
want me to do
scorched
all
earth it and just start over and start it
Again.
with somebody fresh who
Schneider.
is
But
a
the
Kevin
shit-
Feige, not Schneider.
Yeah,
Bring the
but at least
Schneider
for that
cut.
Flash one specifically, they've been making that movie for like 10 years, and they
Yeah.
finally are like,
Longer
get
than that,
ever
dude. There was-
closer. And if all this shit happens, it's like, oh my god.
dude, this
Yeah,
movie.
they set up
this
the
movie's-
Flashpoint story in Batman vs Superman
Yeah.
forever ago.
But they've been trying to make this movie since like the early 2000s. I mean, they had all the principal actors in Australia, and then the writer strike hit, and they yeah, it's crazy. They've
Then
been
they
trying to tell the
hired
story
a
for a long time.
creepy pedo weirdo to fucking be the Flash. Anyways, so
Allegedly.
Yeah. So more to the point, back to that, I don't know who would take the Kevin Feige type job over there, because who the hell's going to want it?
I don't know.
Kevin Feige.
I don't even think he would want to walk into
No.
that shit show.
No, no.
I feel like when he ever retires, it's just going to be like, I'm done doing this.
I kind of hope that they actually end the MCU storyline that we've been following so far when Kevin Feige steps away.
That would be smart.
Yeah, I think you.
Not going to happen
that-
though, because
no.
there's billions
Too
of
much
dollars
money.
to be made. So,
Yeah.
Yeah.
anyways, back to the movie.
Back to the. Right. They take off in the truck while being chased by two guys on motorcycles. Nick takes out one of them by pulling off his helmet, and the other crashes into the back, and Nick bashes him in the head with the helmet. When he falls out of the back, he leaves Chekhov's knife lying in the back of the truck, where it will stay for the next 20 minutes or so. Perfectly placed.
Which that confused me, because they're in a different truck later.
No, they're still in the same. They just have
But
the
they
top
put
up.
a canopy on it. Okay.
Yeah, they put the
I
canopy
wondered
up.
about that. I couldn't remember. It was like,
Yeah, it's the
what?
same truck. Same Jeep. It's okay.
Yeah, when did they have time to put the canopy up? Because
Well,
when the girls
They
go
had to
out,
come up, because they had to formulate the plan and
Yeah,
make
they
him
put it
up
on-
like the
when
arms
he's getting
dealer.
his
And,
prosthetics put on. They head back to Javi's, where they find Gabriella and Olivia waiting for them. Olivia says Lucas and his goons took Addie, so Nick calls Vivian, who explains Addie's being used as leverage to get the U.S. to drop their backing of the Catalonian president. If Delgado doesn't drop out of the election, they'll kill Addie and Maria. She tells them to come to her location, and we see Vivian's side of the conversation where she's being held at gunpoint and Martin is dead, which kind of was like, oh, well, fuck Martin. He doesn't even
Yeah.
get like a good
Yeah.
death scene.
He's
He's
just
just
dead.
dead in the background.
like, I'm
kind
pretty
of
sure that was just
anticlimactic
some.
for both of them. Like,
Yeah,
we just
I wasn't
kill
even
both
sure
of these
if it was
characters.
Yeah.
the same actor, or if they just got
It
some
was.
random guy to be
Nah, it was the same
dead
dude.
guy.
It was the same guy.
It's interesting because I thought that after I watched it the first time, I didn't remember that they died in this scene. So when I was breaking
Yeah.
it down, I was like, oh, but she's not actually dead. But then like, no, she never comes back.
Yeah,
So
never
she's
comes
dead.
back. Yeah. She's dead, Jim. She manages to get a hold of Martin's gun and kills the bad guys just in time to save Nick, Javi, and the girls from being ambushed. Side note, how the fuck did they not hear the gunshots?
Yeah,
Like they're
Bugged me
walking,
too.
like it's just like
they're
an
in the
echo.
building.
Yeah, and it would echo.
Yeah.
And the door to the room is open, and they're in a stairwell,
Yeah.
a spiral stair. It's just bugged the fuck out of me, but so, I'll let it go.
Save it for a couple of questions.
I'll save it for a couple of questions. They come in to find all four of them dead on the floor, and Javi says that they need to get out of there before more bad guys show up. Suddenly, Nick has a vision of young Nicky telling him that he's just a fucking actor, so he should leave this to the authorities rather than be a hero. Nick says he has to save his daughter, and young Nicky punches him in the face. Nicky says he's trying to help him, but Nick says, "Since when have you ever been trying to help me?"
So there's a cut scene here of this because it's in black and white when it starts, and it kind of has that old nouveau look to it, and it turns into this crazy cabinet of Dr. Caligari mixed with Nick Cage's career, where we see him driving the Shelby from Gone in 60 Seconds, but it's like a cardboard version of the car. And he's like fighting with Nikki, and then there's a scene where they're back up against the wall, like in Face Off, where they're both like talking to each other through the wall. And then it ends with like Nikki drops down into this other room, which I'm sure is a reference to some other. It might have been Wild at Heart. I don't really. I'm not sure what that room was. We'll probably recognize it when we get to it in whatever movie that's from. But I got to imagine it was one of the first Nick Cage movies, or maybe it was Nick's bedroom when he was a kid. I have no idea. But he ends up Nick Cage ends up shooting Nikki, and that's when he takes control of himself. And that's from here on out. That's Nick is in full control of himself and not his young, arrogant kind of stupid self anymore.
That's funny. That's awesome.
Yeah,
but that was cut from the scene or from the film completely, which is a shame.
Javi takes him to a safe house he prepared just in case something like this might happen with his cousin. He says the girls are likely being held at Lucas's compound, which is impenetrable unless someone can open metal doors from the inside. Javi says Lucas wants to form an alliance with Sergio Baldassari?
Baldassari.
Baldassari.
Was Sergio Baldassar?
Bulbasaur.
Bulbasaur.
Baldassari.
Baldassari. Javi says Lucas wants to form an alliance with Sergio Baldassari. I'm just going to say it that way.
Almost.
Whatever.
Baldassari with Sergio Baldassari. Put this in post. Let's do 15 line reads.
It's 11 and Baldassari.
Baldassari. Baldassari.
Mass Effect
Baldassari.
They're all
Javi
bald.
says they're all bald. We're all bald. Sorry. Javi says Lucas wants to form an alliance with Sergio Baldassari, but he doesn't know what he looks like. I'm just going to go with that, guys.
It's all right.
But he doesn't know what he looks like, so he volunteers Nick to pretend to be him and walk straight through the front door.
They don't even drive in. He just walks up to the compound.
He knocks on
suspicious.
the door.
Nick's little like weird walk too the whole time. It's really getting into character.
Next, we see Nick in full prosthetics and a wig with Olivia by his side walking to Lucas's monastery compound. Lucas pulls a knife on him since he assumes he's there to kill him and only lets him go after Olivia says, "Go ahead, slice his throat." Baller move.
Confused
Barbara
about that.
from Barbara Santa.
Santa Barbara.
Santa
Barbara. Barbara Santa.
Barbara Santa. I've been there.
Yeah, so I was confused by that. Was it supposed to be like she was the one actually in power?
I think it was just to show that, like he's a bad guy, so she's a bad guy, and he respects that she's, willing to put her husband's life.
Yeah, but then he doesn't deal with her. He still keeps dealing with bald asshole.
I don't know, man.
Yeah, that part didn't make sense.
Asshole.
Baldassar.
Bald asshole. Bald asshole.
Bulbasaurs.
Yeah.
Bulbasaur's. Anyway, Sergio Bulbasaur. Lucas's goons show them to a room. Then they sneak to the basement where Nick knocks out a goon and steals his gun. They get caught immediately by the teacher's pet, who takes them to Lucas, who has the girls tied up and on their knees facing a wall, totally Blair Witch style. Like if this wasn't this movie, I'd be creeped out because they're just totally looking at that wall.
This is just weird. It's like they got a shop light on them and stuff. Like, what the hell?
Well, I mean, you got to you got to magic it up for the beheading videos.
Guess maybe that was what was going on. Was they were about to film like a ransom film or something?
A snuff film.
Or
yeah, maybe.
Execution, yeah. Lucas notices Sergio's beard falling off, and when he gets close, Nick grabs his gun. He holds Lucas while Olivia takes the girls and runs to open the door for Javi.
Why didn't they just kill him then?
Like
because he might have killed Lucas.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah.
Also, how did they get out of the building without somebody else? There's like tons of guards in this place, but
there's only like 6 of them.
Yeah, they were all there with Lucas.
Yeah.
Yes.
Javi decides to try to save Nick, who now has 4 guys with guns pointed at his head. Nick says all that matters is that his family is safe, and Lucas stabs him in the leg with a knife he had on his belt, I guess.
Little face-off reference.
Well, yeah. Yeah. And this is also, not to face off. He rips off Nick's wig and makeup and asks if there's anything he'd like to say before he dies. So he repeats the line he said to David Gordon Green at the beginning of the film, which, to remind you all, is it takes 15 milliseconds for the human brain to send a message to the body. So by the time your bullet hits me, my cerebral cortex will have transmitted a signal to the... Oh my gosh, I can't read this. Sorry.
What's that word? 17? What the hell does that mean?
It's really
What
light.
is that?
Where am I?
Who ever heard of 17s? What?
No, it takes 15 milliseconds for the human brain to send a message to the body. So by the time your bullet hits me, my cerebral cortex will have transmitted a signal to the 17 helping muscles that operate my trigger finger. And before your asshole has had a chance to pucker up, your medulla oblongata will be splattered on the fucking wall behind you.
And if that's the last thing I accomplish on this beautiful green earth, well then, ha! I say, ha! What a way to fucking go!
This fucking performance, dude. I also can't hear medulla oblongata without hearing it in the Waterboy.
Yeah. I think they even say medulla oblongata in the movie, and I'm like, no, that's not how you say it. You got to say it like medulla oblongata.
Medulla oblongata. No, Colonel Sanders. You're wrong. All this really confuses Lucas, which, would confuse me too, and distracts him enough for Nick to grab his gun and shoot him in the shoulder. Then he shoots another goon before Javi shows up and takes out the other three. Nick takes out another guy. Oh, sorry. He takes out the scorpion dude, right? Is that who it is? The guy that they back over the truck? Yeah, Jacob Scorpio. Scorpio. I can't remember his last name. Anyways.
I don't know. Oh, yeah, Scipio.
Right. Yeah.
The actor.
Yeah. Nick takes out...
Why would I know that guy's name? Why do you know that guy's name?
Because he's been in a couple things I've seen.
I just saw his name in the credits. I didn't realize that's who that was.
And then, he's been in a couple movies I've seen recently. So when he showed up in this, I was like, oh, damn, dude, this guy's on a roll.
You can't read the word 17, but you know that
guy. Nick takes out another guy, the guy that Gabrielle just ran over a few seconds earlier. And Maria is shocked to see Nicolas Cage is the one who came to save her. Then she says, that's badass, like the guy from Prisoners of Ghostland. I don't remember how he said it, so I'm just going to say it like that.
That's badass.
Badass.
Oh, yeah. That's
badass.
Yeah, no, I kid, because there's no fucking reference to that film in this movie.
Yeah, I wonder why they didn't pay homage to Prisoners of the Ghostland in this.
Oh, man, thank God they didn't. Jesus fuck. Anyways, they drive away as Nick asks Addie, are you hungry? Little National Treasure call back there. But Lucas and his guys soon catch up to them. Javi volunteers to get out of the truck and slow them down long enough for Nick and the girls to get to the U.S. Embassy. Or should I say, he just jumps out of the back of the moving truck.
And then Nick stops immediately.
Nick stops immediately.
Yeah. And Gabriella gets out.
Yeah. Gabriella stays behind as well, and they kiss before Javi shoots at his cousin with the golden guns, and Gabrielle fires a machine gun. Javi gets shot in the arm, and Lucas takes off after Nick. A long gone in 60-second style car chase ensues before Nick blasts through the gate at the embassy.
He even does the backwards driving.
Yeah, he does. Yeah. Yeah. Unfortunately, Lucas came through with him and holds a gun to his head while tons of armed guards from the embassy pop out. Maria shows Addie the knife left by the biker earlier, and she throws the knife to him, and Nick stabs Lucas with it, like, after miraculously catching it. It's kind of a little off key here, but, it's a movie.
Yeah.
Anyways,
really, it is a movie at this point. Yeah.
Anyways, the scene then cuts to a movie set where Spain has changed to Pasadena City Hall, which is super recognizable now thanks to the show Parks and Rec.
Which is weird coincidence, but I was just there
I was
a month ago.
I was going to say, because of your picture in front of it, that's how I recognized it before the Parks and Rec reference hit my head. I was like, wait,
if you go back and watch, movies over the course of the last like 20 years, there are so many times when Pasadena City Hall is in the background posing as something else. I've seen it a ton just because I recognize it now because of Parks and Rec. And then after being there, I went there because I was staying like 2 blocks from it, and I was like, oh, that's where they filmed the Parks and Rec setup shots for City Hall. So I went and saw it. Now I see it everywhere in films and TV shows. It's like you'll start seeing it now.
Olivia is replaced by Demi Moore, and we see that this is the premiere of he and Javi's movie they've been writing throughout the film. The audience cheers and gives Nick a standing ovation. Olivia and Addie congratulate him, and Fink says he's back. But not that he went anywhere. Not that he ever went anywhere. Javi comes in and says he was too nervous to watch and says Vanity Fair wants to interview them. Nick says he can't since he wants to spend the night with his family, but Javi should go and enjoy the fame Nick once so desperately wanted. We see Olivia, Addie, and Nick hanging out in the living room where Olivia comments on Nick's belt buckle, which is a tarantula. So fits Nick.
It's cute and cuddly.
Yeah. He says Neiman and Marcus wanted him to wear a B-shaped belt buckle to the premiere, and he said, "No, not the bees, not the bees."
Which that was also a Nick Cage. He wanted to put that in there.
I love that he did that.
We're making a self-referential thing. We have to put not the bees in here.
I'm so glad he did that. I figured he would hate that meme, but I'm glad that
he probably does, which maybe that's why he
does. Yeah, but he's a good sport.
Yeah,
obviously, I think that's the biggest thing that's come out of this is we realize that like Nick Cage is genuinely a good sport about all this stuff.
Yeah. Well, they watch Paddington 2, and we see Nick with tears in his eyes while his daughter rests her head on his shoulder. Then we cut to the view of a bat watching them from the window, but that's a story for another time.
It did feel like the bat watching through the window.
As it then pans out to the city.
Which you see, I don't feel like they say the name of the movie, but that's where you see the poster of the unbearable weight of massive talent, in the background.
Yeah, they pan out there.
Kind of a, if you don't look for it, you'll miss it type of detail, which is cool.
I missed it.